Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive? This time, we're tackling a big one. What is life anyway?
Sounds simple, right?
You would think, but you guys sent in a ton of stuff, excerpts from pasted text, that whole Understanding Life document. Clearly you want to get philosophical.
And I'm all for it. It's a question that's fascinated thinkers for, well, basically forever.
No kidding. The pasted text even mentions this ancient Greek guy, Empedocles.
Oh yeah, Empedocles.
He thought everything was made of earth, air, fire, and water.
Not quite how we see it now.
Definitely not. But still, it shows people have been trying to figure this out for ages.
It is amazing how these early philosophers tried to make sense of the world. They were working with such limited tools, but they laid the groundwork for our modern understanding.
So fast forward a few thousand years, and what's the answer now? It's not about the four elements anymore, right?
Nope, not anymore. Now we're talking about proteins, nucleic acids, the building blocks of life as we know it.
Okay, that's where I start to get lost. Proteins, nucleic acids. It's all a bit much. Think of it like this. You've got DNA, which is like the blueprint for building an organism. And then you've got proteins, which are like the construction workers actually doing the building.
Okay, I can kind of picture that. But here's a real head scratcher. The Understanding Life document mentions this idea of a single common ancestor.
Ah, yes, the last universal common ancestor, or LUCA for short.
LUCA. So, like, all life on Earth, from bacteria to us, came from one single starting point.
That's the leading theory. All the diversity of life we see today stemming from a single ancestor billions of years ago. It's a mind-blowing concept.
3.5 billion years ago, to be exact. That's what the document says.
That's right. It's an incredibly long time. It's almost impossible to grasp.
Seriously, 3.5 billion years, I can't even wrap my head around that. So what we're all related to like a single-celled organism from way back then.
Most likely. We don't have direct evidence of that very first life form, of course.
Makes sense. It was a long time ago.
But we do have fossil records, which offer a glimpse into this long evolutionary journey.
Oh, right. Fossils. Like those dinosaur skeletons in museums?
Exactly. Fossils are like snapshots in time, helping us piece together the history of life on Earth.
Okay, so we've established that life is ancient and diverse. But that brings us back to the original question. What actually is life? I mean, we can all tell a dog is alive and a rock isn't. But what's the scientific definition?
It's actually more complex than you might think.
I figured as much.
The sources we're looking at today highlight several key characteristics, like homeostasis.
Homeostasis?
Right, homeostasis. Basically, it means maintaining a stable internal environment.
So like our body is staying at the right temperature.
Exactly. Our bodies are constantly adjusting to maintain a stable internal environment. It's all about balance.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about life that's totally different from what we know? Like, could there be life forms out there that don't even have DNA?
That's a great question. It's something scientists are actively exploring. And it leads us to one of the biggest head-scratchers in biology. Viruses.
Viruses. Oh boy, here we go.
They're tricky, aren't they?
I remember from school it was a big debate. Are they alive or not?
Exactly. They can replicate, but only inside a host cell. They have genetic material, but they don't have their own metabolism. So they kind of blur the lines of what we traditionally consider life.
So where does that leave us? If viruses don't quite fit the definition, could there be other things out there that also challenge our understanding of life?
Absolutely. And that's what makes this whole topic so exciting. It's a constant process of discovery and reevaluation.
Well, I'm definitely reevaluating everything I thought I knew about life.
Me too. But we're just getting started. You know, it's interesting to think about, like, what if we find something on another planet and we don't even recognize it as life because it's so different from what we know?
Right. If we don't even have a solid definition of life here on Earth, how are we going to know it when we see it out there in the universe?
Exactly. Like, what if there's life that's not based on carbon?
Whoa, hold on. Not based on carbon.
Yeah. What if it's silicon-based or something we haven't even thought of?
Okay, now that is blowing my mind. Silicon-based life. Sounds like science fiction.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's a real possibility. And then there are extremophiles. Remember those?
Extremophiles. Oh, yeah. Those were mentioned in the Understanding Life document.
Right. They're these organisms that can survive in, like, the craziest environments.
Yeah, like volcanoes or the bottom of the ocean, places where you'd think nothing could live.
Exactly. It's incredible how adaptable life can be.
So what, they're like the ultimate survivors?
Pretty much. And, you know, thinking about extremophiles, it makes you wonder, If they can exist in those extreme conditions here on Earth,
What does that mean for life out there in space?
exactly. Like maybe on a planet with a totally different atmosphere or a moon with like a subsurface ocean.
Oh, like Europa, that
Mm.
moon of Jupiter that scientists think might have an ocean under all that ice.
Exactly. Europa is a great example. And who knows what kind of crazy life forms could be lurking in those kinds of environments.
Okay, so maybe alien life is out there. But then it brings up this question. What is it about life itself that makes it so resilient? Like, how does it even arise in the first place?
That's a huge question. There are a lot of different theories. The pasted text talks about life as this force, this drive towards complexity and organization, even in the face of chaos.
It's almost like life has this inherent desire to exist, to evolve, to keep going no matter what.
Right. A powerful idea. And makes you wonder, what's the purpose of it all?
Whoa, okay, slow down. The meaning of life. That's a pretty heavy topic.
It is. And honestly, there are no easy answers. But the sources we're looking at do offer some interesting perspectives.
Like what?
Well, one thing that stood out to me was the idea that maybe meaning comes from connection.
Connection, like between living things.
Exactly. Think about it. The interconnectedness of all life on Earth, the relationships we form with each other, with our communities, with the planet as a whole.
Okay, I can see that. We are all connected in some way.
Right. And maybe that's where meaning comes from. Not from some big cosmic plan, but from the relationships we create and the impact we have on the world around us.
So it's less about finding the answer to some big mystery and more about just living and connecting.
Yeah, I think so. It's about the journey, not the destination.
I like that. Makes it feel less overwhelming, you know?
Yeah. But speaking of journeys, we haven't even talked about artificial life yet.
Oh, yeah, right. Creating life in a lab. We mentioned that earlier.
It's wild, right? Like actually trying to build life from scratch.
It sounds both amazing and kind of terrifying.
Definitely both. I mean, scientists are working on making synthetic cells, you know?
Wait, seriously, like building a cell from the ground up?
Yep. It's incredibly complex, but the potential benefits are huge. Imagine being able to create cells to produce medicine, clean up pollution, maybe even grow new organs.
That's incredible. But there's got to be a downside, right? Isn't there a risk of like messing with things we don't fully understand?
There are definitely ethical concerns. Some people worry about what could happen if artificial life gets out of control or if it's used for harmful purposes.
Yeah, that's a scary thought.
It is. It's something we need to think carefully about.
It feels like this whole discussion about artificial life just highlights how much we still don't know about what life really is, you know?
Totally. And it makes you question, like, what does it even mean to create life? What are our responsibilities if we can do that?
Big questions, and ones that I don't think we have all the answers to yet.
Definitely not. But that's what makes this whole topic so fascinating to explore.
I totally agree. This deep dive has been a wild ride. We started with ancient philosophy, then talked about aliens, now we're creating life in labs. It's been a lot to take in.
It has. We've gone from the microscopic world of cells to the vastness of space, and through it all, we keep coming back to that same fundamental question. What is life?
So we've talked about a lot of crazy stuff, you know, ancient Greeks, aliens, lab-grown life. It's like, where do we even go from here?
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like the more we learn, the more questions we have.
Exactly. And after all this, like, I keep coming back to this question of what it all means, you know? What's the point of it all? The meaning of life, the whole shebang.
Yes, the big question. And unfortunately, the sources we're looking at don't really offer any easy answers.
No kidding. I was kind of hoping for, like, a cosmic rule book or something, you know? Here's the meaning of life. Follow these steps.
But if only it were that simple. But maybe that's not the point. Maybe the meaning isn't something we find written out somewhere, but something we create ourselves.
Okay. So what, like we just make it up as we go along?
In a way, yeah. Remember all those themes we talked about? Interconnectedness, evolution, the drive towards complexity.
Yeah.
Maybe those are the clues.
So instead of looking for a single big answer, we should be focusing on, like, the whole picture.
I think so. The meaning might not be out there in the stars, but right here in the way we live our lives, the connections we make, the impact we have.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together now. You know, we started with the building blocks of life, then we talked about all the crazy diversity, then aliens, then artificial life. It's like life is just this constant process of exploration and discovery.
And maybe that's the point, right? To keep questioning, keep searching, keep pushing the boundaries of what we know.
It's kind of humbling, You know, like we're not the center of the universe and we don't have all the answers.
Exactly. But at the same time, it's exciting. There's still so much out there to discover.
This deep dive has been a wild ride for sure. We've covered so much ground, but it feels like we've only just scratched the surface.
Absolutely. There's always more to explore.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap things up. But before we go, I want to leave you with one last thought. Remember how we talked about all life on Earth coming from a single common ancestor?
Yeah, the idea that everything is connected in a way.
Right. But what if, out there in the vastness of space, we find life that didn't come from that same ancestor? Like life that started completely independently on a totally different path. What would that tell us about the nature of life itself?
Oh, that's a big one. It would definitely challenge everything we think we know.
Right. It's like suddenly our definition of life wouldn't be big enough anymore.
It's a reminder that we're always learning, always discovering, always expanding our understanding of the universe.
And that's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It really is.
So to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the mysteries of life. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and who knows, maybe you'll be the one to make the next big discovery. Until next time.